Hi guys, I'm so excited today because I've got hold of something very special. One of the first cars to be produced by this actual manufacturer. Yes, this is the Honda S800. And I first saw one of these when I was a teenager back in the 1980s in some Honda showroom somewhere. I was blown away by how something so small, so sporty and so utterly cool could have come out of Japan. In fact, this was the last in the series of S-Series and S Roadsters to come out of Japan. Remember, from Honda in fact, remember Honda was known for making motorbikes. As a car manufacturer, it was still fledgling. It only started producing cars in 1963. This was shown at the Tokyo Motor Show in 1965. They started producing this in 1966 to 1970, making about 11,500 of these. Of course, it followed the S500 and the S600. Now, nothing was produced after this car all the way until the awesome S2000 about 30 years later, so quite a gap there. Now, this car was officially imported to the UK as well. Between 67 and 70, about 1,500 of them were sold here. This car actually belongs to Honda. They bought it in 2016 and it underwent a restoration. It was a sympathetic restoration, not concours condition. To be honest, it's authentic, and really the only issues on it were some rust and some wear and tear. Mechanically, it was fine. Well, you know what? It is a Honda after all, right? Now, right now, as an investment, these are a great idea because a couple of years ago, you could pick up something like this for £20,000. Something like this today would cost you well over £30,000, and the top examples are close to £40,000. Now, at 53 years old, it's slightly older than I am, and as you can see from the scale proportion representation that you can see on your screen, it's a meter and a bit longer than I am tall. Yeah, this thing is tiny. It's about 3.3 meters long, 1.4 meters wide and 1.2 meters tall. In fact, at 6'2", I'm not even sure if I can fit in it and drive it. But drive it I must, because it is an absolute gem of a little engine. 0.8 liters, as the name would imply, but to be exact, 791 cc. It's a 4-cylinder, double overhead camshaft, twin choke carburetors. It's basically derived from a motorcycle engine because that's what Honda did at the time, redlined at 10,000 RPM. You get 70 brake horsepower at 8,000 RPM and you get 49 pounds-foot of torque at 6,000 RPM. And that drives the rear wheels through a 4-speed manual gearbox. It's very light, 771 kilograms, so it's about 91 brake horsepower per ton. So you get 0 to 60 acceleration of 13.6 seconds, and it manages to reach 100 miles per hour top speed. Okay, that does sound pathetic by today's standards, but back then it would have been very acceptable. Besides, it's all about how it feels from behind the steering wheel. And I tell you what, after 35 years, I'm going to find out. But before I do that, make sure you're subscribing to Go Classic magazine. Just head over to goclassic.co.uk where you can take out a subscription. And it's a great magazine. You know how I know that? Because I'm in it. Cool, let's get into this. You know what, just for a laugh, let's actually look at the Practicality. It does have a boot. There's the petrol filler cap over there. Now you open the boot by pressing on that. And there you go, look at that, that's beautiful, isn't it? Look at all the chrome on here. This is absolutely gorgeous. Now this is clever. You see this little clip here? When that goes up, it automatically falls back. No electronics, simple physics, mathematics, gravity does the job of holding that boot up. It just automatically goes into that slot and latches. The boot, it's okay, you know, and they've nicely finished it. Come and have a look. They have nicely finished it in terms of, obviously it's been repainted and stuff, and you can literally see the fuel tank right there. It's okay. I mean, what more do you need? I mean, and it's a tiny car, so all things considering, that's not bad. So to close it, you just pull that out again, let it lie loose, and then drop it. Nice, satisfying thud there. How satisfying is it for me to find out if I can actually fit in there? You're about to see. Before I get in, just have a look at this interior. It is so beautifully presented. I mean, obviously it has been restored, but these seats are fantastic, really nicely trimmed, very thin rim steering wheel there, a bit of patina on this steering wheel as on the dashboard, but it's all in one piece, it's all fine. Classic dials over there, and this tiny stubby gear lever there. Look at the mirror, look at this. Talking of tiny, let's see. This is the moment of truth. Door opens, wind up windows. And moving my feet in individually, stretching it out. Oh, wow, the steering wheel is on the big side, but by stretching out my feet, there's enough room there. And I'm in. I'm actually in. So this is pretty cool. So there you go. And there's the handbrake is there. What we've got little ashtray. Remember when cars used to have ashtrays in it? Little Honda badge there. It's got a heater in it. You've got an amp meter, fuel gauge, temperature gauge. That is your tachometer, RPM, and this is your speedometer. This is the indicator. That's the horn right there, and the ignition key is there. Here you have a sort of armrest center console, which has obviously been retrimmed with a little compartment in it as well. And I believe that there is some space here. There's a little tray back here, actually, interestingly enough, to put stuff on. And over here, you've got quite a capacious glove box. You get more than a few gloves into that glove box, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, little mirror, that'll take getting used to, and only one wing mirror on the side here, which can just be adjusted like that. It's time to take it for a drive. The first time I started it, it just jutted a little bit, but now it's kind of warmed up. Again, old cars, they need warming up, right? So select first, handbrake off, and the clutch is weird on this one. So the guys told me that they need to, oh, here we go, we're moving off. Actually, there you go. So the clutch is weird because it's very heavy, but it doesn't need to go all the way down. It only needs to go a little bit over the way down. In fact, if you push it all the way down, it stalls. The guys said they're going to adjust it, but at some point, but not right now. But it's actually quite easy. The first to second shift is not a problem at all. It's a really short little gear lever, very stubby. It's literally like a switch rather than a gear lever. Actually feels like a toggle switch as well. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure we're in second and we're struggling to get up this little hill. You know, that is 70 horsepower, so, you know, there we go. 49 pounds-foot of torque. All right. There you go. Got to remember that old gearboxes, you need to just give it a little bit of a gap between changes. But here we are, and it's moving. Good visibility, that's for sure, all around. Visibility is not even an issue. But oh, you know what? Actually, once you start moving, that's an indicator right there. Look at that. And I have to stop. The brakes, you know, the brakes aren't as bad as I was expecting them to be. I'm getting used to this already. It does take a little, the clutch, oh, you have to turn the indicator off by yourself. You have to get used to it a little bit. Once you do, you start to adapt to the clutch and the way it feels. But I'll tell you what, the steering is really light. It really gets up to revs quickly, doesn't it? That's fourth, that's basically top gear. But actually fourth is like an overdrive on this, really. So it's kind of gone completely flat. So put it back, so yeah, then it's more interesting. We're still doing less than 4,000 RPM, believe it or not. I mean, yeah, you don't need a lot of RPM, although, you know, it's one of those cars that is supposed to be revved hard, but you don't actually need a lot of RPM for it to be going places. Having said that, it's an old car. It's 50 plus years old, so I don't want to use up too many of those revs. I might just close the wind-up windows to avoid my hat flying off. And yeah, so cruising quite easily now at 30 miles an hour. This is really good. Okay, let's pick this up again when we find some clear roads. So we found a nice little road and we're motoring along a little bit now. And I still haven't, you know, I've got it up to about 5, I think is the most I've done. And but you know, that's plenty, to be honest. One of the things is a little car, quite a flat, solid ride. There's a bit of rattling and stuff going on, obviously. I'm in fourth already, run out of gears. And of course, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of jumping up and down. You can feel everything. But the steering too, very light, too light. I would like it to be Meteor, you know, non-power assisted, completely manual. But when you're moving, it's quite light. At lower speeds, it's obviously quite hefty, but not too difficult for parking or anything like that. But plenty of feel, plenty of feedback. I can feel what the tarmac is doing. I can feel what the car is doing. The whole car, even though there's a bit of play in it, but I can still feel the movement of the car. You know, it's a lot of fun because there's a lot of tactile, visceral sensations and feelings coming through this car. So even though we're only doing like 40, we're not even doing the legal limit on this road. Looking behind is always a bit of an issue. So a bit of a bend around here, and you know, just keeping in third and getting, oh yeah, I mean, it's just no issue at all. It's tiny car, tiny footprint, and you can actually power through a little corner, and it's very happy to do that, no problem at all. The gear change is just working so well. I mean, yes, you have to be very precise with it, and you have to get out of the mindset that it might be a 6-speed or a 5-speed. It's not. There's literally only 4 speeds. But yeah, just throwing it through this corner now, absolutely grips tightly, no understeer, no oversteer, absolutely sorted, really, really composed. You know what? Actually a really drivable car, considering this is, 53 years old, Again, loose surface there, but holds on really well, no an issue. I could just feel the front maybe slightly losing grip, but not really too much of an issue. Again, bumpy road, so you really start to fly out your seat. But boy, it is so much fun to drive, and that's not even using its full potential. But and it just, the more you do rev it, the more the sound goes a bit crazy, and that's when you start to get that motorcycle sensation out of it. Not that it sounds like a motorcycle engine, it definitely sounds like a car engine, but a real buzzy thing. There you go, a little bit of a bump there, and you get the whole thing rattling. Gotta keep my hat on, and again the slight uphill, so we'll give it a little bit of a revs and up through here. But oh man, so good. Utterly planted, very secure. You can see why they used to take these racing as well. It's absolutely fantastic. What an awesome experience. And again, it's so small that it's so easy to thread through these little roads. It's never ever a concern. Tight corners, no problem. A little bit there on the brakes, slightly tight, little bit of understeer there at lower speed, but not at the faster sweepers, not an issue. The brakes, you have to really go down to the bottom to get the full power of the brakes. But having said that, they're not as bad as I thought. But having driven some older cars, you do tend to get used to the fact that older cars, the braking, you have to radio ahead, but not in these ones. They're absolutely fine. Just nice to give it a little bit of revs to just match the downshifts a little bit, but it works really well. I am making use of fourth gear because, again, I want to be sympathetic to the mechanicals of this car and not really go into the higher echelons. Although, to be honest, it does feel like it wants to. You really get that sensation that it's like, let's go higher, let's go higher. But the thing is, we're doing a fair old speed as it is. This is great fun, very satisfying. And, they say don't meet your heroes, but I think in this case, it's okay to meet your heroes because it makes a fair bit of noise. Everything is holding steady, the temperature and all of that, no problem at all. Everything is staying quite cool. Yeah, really good bit of driving there, really, really good. Visibility, again, not an issue because, you just look over your shoulder and there is everything. What an absolute joy and what a great experience it's been to try something that's a little bit older than I am, let's be honest, and find it to be so relatable, so relevant still now. And one of the things about this car, of course, is that, naturally aspirated, non-assisted in every sense. You have to look around you, no electronics, no nothing. And that sense of old schoolness in an era where, we're turning to computers for everything, including everything that we do with our cars, it's so refreshing to get into something like this and know that, you can still drive it, you can still feel it, you can still feel its relevance, you can still use it effectively. I mean, to be honest, like, if this was my car, and if I got a little bit more used to it, I could see myself using this probably a lot more than I should do, given its classic status and its value. So, in that sense, quite a usable little thing. And again, so enjoyable to drive. I mean, again, we're coming up to some corners, and it relishes corners, it absolutely does. And the thing is that you're not going that quickly. You're not breaking the speed limits. In modern cars, you have to be going so much quicker to be having, this level of fun. And in this one, you're really not. I mean, I'm barely doing just over 30 miles an hour. That's it. And you can see the size of the grin on my face. It's completely disproportionate to the speed limit that I'm in. Absolutely brilliant. So there you go. There is a review of this absolute icon from Japan, the Honda S800. It's been my dream to drive this car for, over 35 years. So to actually be able to do it today is an absolute joy, an absolute pleasure, an absolute blast, literally. I hope you enjoyed that review. Catch you again soon.
So you want something sleek and glamorous, and then check out the Jaguar E-Type featured in our launch issue, alongside many other features such as
buying guides, owner's tips, and even how to buy your own first classic car.
Go Classics is about the cars that you relate to, the cars that you've dreamed of, and the cars that you can own, run, and enjoy. At Go Classics, we'll tell you how.
Go Classics is the most exciting car magazine on the shelves today, and it's out now. And you can get one by heading over to goclassics.co.uk, where you can find some of our fantastic limited time subscription offers.
forget about the boring, the pompous, the self-important. If you want something new,
Go Classics!